today we are talking about the power of detachment. And we have with us here Christina Del Rey, our astrologer. Reverend Christina, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
Perfect. Good. And we have Reverend Paul Casey, Healing Arts. How are you, Paul?
Great, thanks. How are you?
I am good, thank you. And Paul will be taking care of all of the comment feed here. So let's talk about this, okay? The power of detachment. What do we really mean by that? What we're talking about is the ability to pull away from your reality, to create a new reality through the power of detachment, allowing yourself to be an observer, not an absorber of other people's actions, of your life, of your thoughts, of your emotions, everything that goes on in the world around you and in your own life and body has the opportunity with it for you to not be so embedded that it washes you away with the experience, but instead to come from a place of enlightenment, actually making you more empowered and wise, okay? Being able to watch and observe instead. So it's really powerful to live from a more uplifting, honest, advantageous place of detachment. Because when we're embedded in our lives, we're easily distracted by our endless logic, our runaway thoughts, our cyclical thinking of worry. We're also easily manipulated by our ever-changing emotions. Our feelings are very fickle. And we need to remember that all the guidance we were given, especially in the 50s, or more like the 60s and the 70s, really, about following your bliss, follow your feelings, follow your heart, follow your emotions. That is terrible, terrible advice. And then we have a hyper-religious, community basically beating that out of us and telling us the polar opposite. No. Just go by your faith in the religion. And it's really not either one of those. If you can detach properly, you can come from your intuition. You can come from a truthful place of honesty where energy never lies. And you understand that. You can only really understand that intuition if you're centered and rooted and grounded and in the moment. And that has a lot to do with being right-brained versus left logical brain as well. So the more we detach, the more we tap into our right brain, and we're tapping into our ancestors, our intuition, our psychic ability. We would also notice that we're tapping into our musical talents, our artistic outlets, our creativity. It's uplifting in so many different ways. So one of the signs that you're really embedded in your life is that you're not having any of that flow. You are feeling out of whack with all the things that I just mentioned, or there seems to be some kind of block there. You feel disconnected. And so to stay in the flow, you would want to detach. It's almost like tuning out from everything else and tuning in to the right side of your brain. Okay, biblically, we would call this right thinking. Jesus talked about right thinking. Okay, that's right brain thinking. So we need to understand that our emotions are based on the flesh. It's based on what we want, instant gratification. It's almost like you may want to think of your emotions, your feelings as being like a temper tantrum. The body wants what it wants. Our ego wants what it wants. And we want it yesterday. And that's not how the universe operates. So you need to stop feeding that by feeding more of your intuition and less of your emotion. Same thing goes for logic. Don't get tied up in those cyclical thoughts of worry or control or what if or, perfectionism. Can I do more? Stay right brained in with your intuition and only do what you're supposed to. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. Okay, so detachment allows you to remain centered, grounded, connected to your intuition, and it makes for wiser choices than we would ever make if we are enmeshed. Here are 3 key areas that you can apply detachment daily, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how to, and then I'm going to hand the microphone over to Reverend Paul and Reverend Christina and you guys. Okay, again, feel free to post your questions and your comments. We will be getting to those. So 3 key areas where we all really need to be detaching. Number 1, in your relationships and with all human interaction that you have. So we tend to see other people's behavior as a reflection of us. If someone rejects you, maybe I did something wrong, or, I somehow made them feel that they don't want to interact with whatever it is that I have to offer. And we can really analyze that to death and wonder, how we could improve upon ourselves. Why did it happen? And we have to understand, and detachment helps with this, that people are actually seeing you through their own eyes. They're reacting to you from whatever their understanding is, whatever place they're coming from. They're going to project that onto you, or they're going to reject you because they are not doing the work that they need to do, or, they're going to maybe misunderstand because maybe they don't know enough about who you are or what you offer. There are a million different reasons why we could not get the reaction out of other people that we want. And that has everything to do with them. Now, I'm not saying don't ever look at yourself or improve yourself. That would be foolish. That's not what we're all about. I'm saying look at yourself and improve yourself through your own process, not others. Don't let other people control your process. Understand that people, especially that are maybe very angry, they're volatile, they're toxic, they're always spewing their negativity out to the world. Understand that that has more to do with their lack of mental health, with their lack of growth, their lack of integrity and character and ignorance. It has nothing to do with you. And sometimes we even see that we're born into families like this, and we end up being the scapegoat or the black sheep. So there are all kinds of systems out there, social systems, family systems, where we end up feeling bad about ourselves, but it's really about the other person and where they're coming from. So what I would recommend, this is how you can apply detachment. See people for what they really are, wide open vessels of energy. We are all wide open channels. And the only people in the world that are channeling positive energy from the universe on a regular basis are those who are mindful, are actively trying to do so, are deliberately feeding positivity versus negativity. But the true human condition is to come from a fear-based, egotistical, dog-eat-dog place. That's the sake of survival in work, right? So people are naturally going to want to take. They're going to naturally be fear-based to survive the world around them. But the evolved will be the mindful ones that are channeling positive energy. Those that stay low will consistently channel negative energy and will spew that negativity out into the world. So see humans for what they are. They're energy. They're vessels that can easily be manipulated and are every day, 24/7, unless they're really being mindful. I would also just remind you that knowing that and thinking of people as that, very separate from you, wide open vessels, should help you to not take anything personally. They like you, great. They don't like you, great. You don't care either way. Who cares? Even when we allow people into our lives, we need to remember they're still wide open channels. And at any point, they could lose that mindfulness. They could go sour. They could go dark. They could get wrapped up through some life event that they had into some cycle of negativity that they don't ever come out of. We just don't know. Okay, so we have to understand that people are ever changing, fickle, really, okay, unless they are applying that mindfulness and really living with a growth mentality all the time. Also, I would say this, here's another way to detach. Keep your karma clean at all times. I love that saying, what someone else does to you is their karma. How you react is your karma. Don't get down with the dogs. Don't get dirty with this toxic energy so that you're trying to get revenge. Understand things like manifestation. Understand things like the law of attraction and the way the universe actually works so that you can rest and you can stay in forgiveness and love and peace and tune out other people's toxic decisions. Okay, so you have to know that karma always comes. It will be delivered. There is no one in this universe that escapes it. So keep your karma clean and let them have theirs. We'll talk about area number 2, work, tasks, projects. I think it's an honorable trait to want to bring your A game, to want to do things right. But if we allow ourselves to become perfectionistic, it could take a toll on our energy level, our attitude, the work itself, our self-esteem. And so I think it's really important that we understand how to do what we're supposed to do, bring the best that we can to it, and then let it go. You have to stop at some point. And I think of all the writing projects I've worked on over the course of my life and how this displays it more than any other area. That when I get to the point where I'm about to put it out to the public to read, I become obsessed over the editing process. I already go through a 5-part editing process. I shouldn't need a 6, 7, 8, 9-part editing process. Just because things can be said or done in a different way doesn't mean they need to. At some point, let it go. Okay, so pay attention to your thought patterns, especially when you're laying down at night. If you're obsessive and you're overthinking things, you can't let it be what it's meant to be. I would also say stay in your lane. We have a free mini class on this. Paul, could you put that in the comments? Staying in your lane is so important. You should never be picking up projects or tasks, relationships, or scheduling yourself to be somewhere. No investment in your life should ever be outside of your lane. If you are only doing what you're meant to do, you are automatically going to feel better about where you are. It becomes very, very hard to detach when you're involved with something that was never meant for you anyways, because it becomes like an obsession. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time, dealing with the wrong people, doing the wrong thing, and it's going to haunt you, basically. Okay? So stay in your lane. Not staying in your lane also feeds the ego. And so that's fear, that's a need to control or manipulate, coming from a darker place instead of a place of love and faith and positivity. You got to let all that go. All right. So the last one I want to talk about, number 3, is the life strategy of the eagle. This is what I tell my clients. This is what I tell my students. I've told my children, and I have to remind myself of on a daily basis. You have to become like the eagle. The eagle flies above the storm where the other birds stay low, all tied up in that drama. The eagle knows when something is coming like a storm and knows when and how to properly exit. You'll also watch an eagle soar, and it's like they don't even work at it. They're just flying. And this has everything to do with that energy level that they've built up, okay, where it's like a sweet spot. And I think the way to get there in life every day is to notice when you're getting upset. You're taking things too seriously. You're kind of on earth with everybody else in the flow of that chaotic energy. You're not in your own space. You're not centered and grounded or up above like the eagle is. You can feel it energetically. And the minute you realize you're doing that, snap out of it. Visualize that you are actually the eagle and stay there for a minute or two. And it'll be easier to hold it afterward, after you come out of that visualization, that meditation. Okay, and some easy ways to think of it in the everyday habit is to observe the situations that are going on in your life and let them flow by, almost like you're watching a movie, even when you're involved. Observe your own feelings and emotions and let them flow on by. Don't become them. Don't entertain them for longer than you should. Observe your thoughts. Oh, wow, I'm having that thought. I'm having that traumatic flashback. Oh, wow, I'm having, this worry or concern. Okay, and that's okay. And let it flow on by. Observe others. Oh, wow, I really love you. Oh, wow, I really hate you. Oh, wow, whatever. I have to deal with you right now. Okay, that's fine. Observe it and let it flow on by. Don't harbor anything. Okay? Stay in the way. Stay on your own path and allow things to flow. All right, I know we want to get on Christina or Paul. Who wants to dive into this?
I can. Okay, so I love everything that you said. Sometimes when I'm trying to explain what detachment is, you can explain it with what it's not. Mm-hmm. So what it's not is being cold or aloof. That's not detachment. It's not like ceasing to care about anyone, only being concerned about yourself. It's not clinging to things that are good, and it's not resisting things that are bad, and it's not controlling everything around you either. So when you're detaching, what is it? It's controlling your inner environment and making peace inside. And then when you come to deal with a situation, because you can't control what is put in front of you, you go to work, you don't know what's going to happen, right? So, I'm a teacher. Maybe some kid's going to totally freak out in front of me. I'm going to have to, use my grounding that I got from meditation, and I'm going to have to deal with it. Or it could be a coworker that really annoys me. It's going to come in front of me, and then I have to deal with it. Well, how do you deal with it? If you are completely immersed in the personality and not in the soul, then you're going to be, it's going to consume you. And the mind will, the mind will really try to, it'll say, oh, you're being attacked, or oh, this, oh, that, and it'll get you fired up. So if you're grounded in spirit and in the soul, then when something comes to you and something comes in front of you, you can pause a little bit and back up and detach from it and realize that's your personality that has to deal with it. But you're kind of behind the personality, and you're going to observe it, and you're going to let it go. And it makes it a lot easier, because if you really believe that you are your mind or you are your thoughts, then you're going to get caught up in a situation, and it's going to, spiral out of control. And it's not something that you learn overnight. Detachment is dedication. It's hard work. It's a daily process. It's, you may have to spend some time at night, 10 minutes before bed, and just kind of, do a guided meditation or something. But you have to be able to maintain that through the day, the next day. So if you are able to do it in the morning, that's great. If not, in the middle of your work day, maybe you could just, take a moment, kind of reground yourself. And when we're present, that's another way to be detached, is to be in the present moment, because the mind likes to, it likes to bring up emotions from the past, and the past isn't going to help you. Those emotions aren't going to help you. They're just going to fire you up. So staying in the present moment and trying to transcend, the emotions that kind of come up, and you can still feel the emotions, but you have to let them go. And of course you have healthy boundaries, that's still a part of everything. but we need to make sure that we are immersed in the soul. And when you are meditating, the goal is to stop the mind, because you need the space between thoughts in order to access the soul. And even if you can only get like 1 second or 3 seconds between thoughts, you're still doing something. And the more you do it, the more it will, it will get easier, and it'll get longer too. Just knowing that true happiness is within. Nothing in your work environment, or nothing in any kind of environment, nothing outside of yourself is ever going to make you completely happy. It's all within. So once you start to do this detachment, you start meditating, the things outside of you become a lot less important. And you connect with the soul, and the soul is whole. The soul is not wanting for anything. The soul is light, and it's whole. It's your personality that needs to learn things. That's what's learning, but the soul is already whole. So you have to remember that, this is the personality, this is the soul, and the personality is the one that has to learn, how to control itself and all these lessons in life. But the soul, that is already whole. And I would say too, a trick, and Ivy talked about how the mind, it will go through the negative thoughts. One trick that I always say is, oh, there goes the mind again. If I just start noticing that my mind is spiraling, oh, well, he did that, and then this, and what about this? And I'm getting fired up about my own thoughts. Then a trick is just to say, oh, there goes the mind again. And it brings me right back to the present moment. And that is the only way out of negative thinking. And I've been practicing this for a really long, for like a few months now. And it does work. You may have to say it 100 times to yourself, but eventually you got to get yourself out of that loop, because those bad thoughts, like your body doesn't recognize it as it not happening right now. So when you're bringing stuff up from the past, your body thinks it's happening now. So then you kick into survival mode, and then we got bad diseases happening and mental health problems. So you have to snap yourself back out of it and be in the present moment as much as you can, because remember, wherever your attention goes, that's where your energy goes. So do you want all your energy sucked up with that? Or do you want to be in the present moment and make the best of what's going on right now and make a better life for yourself? Also, too, one thing that I think is something that we need to really stop as a society is continuously talking about what's not working. Right. Maybe you have a friend or a couple friends that you can trust and that you tell them what's going on, but announcing to everybody on social media, or telling every single person you see all the bad stuff that happened, that's just perpetuating your mind and your thoughts. You just need to kind of keep it tight, keep your circle tight, and then anybody else that comes up to you that's not close to you, oh, things are great, yep, hope you're doing good, and kind of smile and move on. I know through my day, I try to cultivate elevated emotions, because if you can feel elevated emotions in your heart, that helps your mind as well, and the mind and the heart start to work together. One thing too, if you're really very emotional person and you have a hard time controlling the mind, a gratitude journal, just writing down what you're grateful for, kind of resets you. I remember doing that for even people that I had to be around, reminding myself what I was grateful for. And it definitely put me in another frame of mind, enough to detach so that I could, carry on. I do recommend, finding your purpose too. That helps a lot. When you're doing something that you love to do, it makes detaching a little bit easier, because you're able to channel spirit, while you're doing that. And once you start to kind of fall behind the mind and you start recognizing the mind and observing the mind, you're able to catch your overreactions a little bit better. I mean, it's not 100%, you know, sometimes you're still going to kind of maybe lose it on somebody or whatever, but you kind of catch it quicker than you did and how you're reacting. And then you can kind of fix it or realize what you did wrong. And then kind of next time, like learn from that. So that's one thing that I've noticed. But you know, you have to be open to what life presents you. So if you are grounded, then you don't have to live in survival mode and be fearful. You can come from a place of love and not fear.
Yeah. Well, yeah, wow. Everything. So, I mean, that was like so many good tools that you guys can use on a daily basis, but we do have to remember you have to use them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Christina can't come and run in at, you know, 3 a.m. when you're going in the wrong direction, or 3 p.m. when you're ready to go off at work, you know, or you're furious with the spouse or whatever. We have to apply these, and it is about forming new habits. Mm-hmm. If you are 35 years old and you're tuning in here tonight and you're hearing this and you're like, well, easier said than done, well, then you will fail. That's it. It's a given. There you go. Just, you may as well tune out. You are going to have to work at it. And if you've spent 35 years going the wrong way, it's going to take 35 plus years to go the right way. But it does get easier. I love that you said that it eventually almost picks up like a tick, like a new, you know, you can see when a new habit is forming. And I think psychologically, what do we say? 3 weeks? 3 weeks of really implementing any new thing, like a weight loss program or, you know, exercise or a new sleep pattern, like anything is about 3 weeks before we start to see some turnout. So you guys have to be dedicated, you know, because these are amazing tools that we've talked about here today. And I, Christina, I love everything you said. I just wanted to say too, for those of you that are in it for the long haul, and we're all in it for the long haul. Granted, we're humans, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We're all in it for the long haul. But if you're marginalized, if you're LGBTQ, if you're a minority, if, you know, you have really dealt with extra weight put on you and a lot of abuse through the societal systems, and then also generational trauma. I mean, if detachment is not the key to your survival and thriving, I don't know what is. You're going to need to learn this, sort of like, you know, you're like an activist on Earth, basically. And you have to be in it for the long haul and pass it down to the future generations, which really has nothing to do with your children, especially I'm talking about future generations, you know, of the Earth. And so keep that in mind. Also, I just wanted to play off of, I love how, Christina, the way you always talk about high versus low, even when you're not trying to. And it's almost like listening to you was listening to the difference between the human part of us versus the divine part of us. You know, the low versus the high. And we have to remember that really is what we are. You know, we're like yin yang. We're like a split, one of those chocolate vanilla cookies. And I just want to say this, and then Paul, I know you have things to say too. But when we are paying attention to our feelings as though we are that feeling, we are that emotion, you need to detach. Remember, I'm feeling this. I'm experiencing this. This is an emotion I'm having. You are not that thing, though. Okay, whatever it is, including memories. That's not who you are. Thank you so much for the donation, Shauna. Greatly appreciated. If you guys would like to leave your donations at this time and post your prayer and healing requests, we are going to be getting onto those as well as your questions in just a minute here. Thank you. Paul, what did you want to say?
Well, I think a lot of it for me was, you really have to, you had said enmeshment earlier, and to really be able to detach from yourself, you have to really see where you start, and for a lot of people, I think it's really hard to detach from themselves to be able to do any type of work because they don't know, they're still enmeshed with everybody else, be it family, friends, whomever, and like to start that, you have to kind of find your limits, I for me personally, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't move, to get out of there entirely. It was just thoroughly 40 years enmeshed in it. and things worked. And so it's like, oh, well, worked. So then you say, you don't know, when you think you're doing things that are for yourself, you're actually kind of doing them based on what other people would want. And you don't realize that because you're so enmeshed. So you can't really detach properly to heal yourself or to take the time for yourself. Like when Christina was saying too about, when your thoughts start going and, you, at that point too, you're making decisions based on how you're probably going to look, with everybody around you. And then that's really not the case. And you're not detached at all at that point. You're not connecting to spirit where you need to. So I know for some of you that if you're having trouble with it, check that, see where your limits are, like how entrenched and enmeshed into everyone else in your circle and vice versa this is. So think of it one way is if I did this, am I bettering myself? Or are you thinking it like people are going to think this? Or are you doing it for someone else? Just kind of think about decisions that way and see where your limits are and where you can pull back and how to really get a hold of yourself and get out of the enmeshment. So, hopefully it won't be for everybody as drastic as they have moved. I mean, but when you said, Ivy, I think checking your habits,
right.
That's a good place to start. If you have to hit up, with your friends and hit this bar on the way home every Friday, but some days you don't want to, but you feel you have to, okay, well, that's a sign of something that is outside of you that you need to take back, But just start there, start small. And I think that for a lot of people is a hidden one because they just assume that everything they're doing with family, friends, habits, because they've been doing it for a long time is good for them. But, more often than not to say it's bad, but it's just not what you need, and I think that that's part of it too, is people think that if they stop doing it, it means it's bad, but that's not necessarily true. It's just not good for you. That's
Amen.
all.
I think it takes a lot of bravery though to move away from a situation when it's toxic too. So that's another way of detaching too, is to be brave, to be courageous and do something, trust the universe that you are making the right move for yourself. And that's tapping into your intuition. That's tapping into your spirit self. So, you got yourself out of a situation and, and are doing better, because what do people do when they are in these situations and they don't know what to do? Well, they go to extremes. So they might drink to an extreme or eat to an extreme or exercise to an extreme. And there's all kinds of extremes, and no extremes are good, because as high as you go as low as you go. So it's like the body, you have to keep homeostasis. You have to keep the balance. So if you're eating or drinking and to soothe your emotions or whatever, shopping, it doesn't matter, you are enmeshed in your personality. You're in your, everybody says in your feelings. If you're in your feelings, you're not detached. So you need to make sure that, you're detaching and observing those feelings.
And that's really what we're trying to do when we drink, when we turn toward any kind of addiction. We're trying to escape to detach. That's not going to work. You have to really detach. It's good in theory. Everything that we do to try to get that feeling of detachment makes sense. It just doesn't actually work because we're taking the wrong approach. So we need to really come from love versus fear. And I love, Paul, how you said that. Take a look at your family. Take a look at your friends. Take a look at your job. Take a look at your social events. Take a look at your daily habits. Take a look at how embedded you are in a system. And for Paul, it took moving away for him to understand, wow, none of that was me, or a lot of it wasn't me, or whatever. I had obligations to other people I shouldn't have. Well, we can all, from wherever we are, start to look at that. But it really does come down, and we do have a church service on this called Love versus Fear. Paul, if you could put that in the comments. So go to YouTube at Ask Ivy here and look at the playlist for Roots Revival, Love versus Fear. How do you come from an authentic place of faith and positivity, just trusting in the universe a little bit, being willing to step out in blind faith in a detached way, versus fear and ego and control, and I can't leave this system. That's why we turn, I love that you said that, Christina, to drugs and alcohol and overeating and all of that. It's all a form of trying to get to a place of detachment. It really, truly is.
Yeah, and it's never gonna work.
Never,
because it's matter. It's not spirit. So it's like you're not only matter. So you have to connect with that.
It entrenches you more.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it worse. It's like quicksand, right?
Yeah.
Anyone grow up in the 80s? Quicksand was in every movie, right? And so
it was a real
the rope and the quicksand, and this was like every 80s kid's biggest fear, that's what adulting was. At some point, you were going to go to the woods for something, you were going to end up in quicksand. Well, that's not being able to detach. Literally, you got to get out of that sinkhole. Did we have questions and comments coming in here? I saw a bunch earlier.
Yeah, everyone is, we get some prayer requests, but a lot of people saying that this is really hitting home. Bethany says that, this is so on point in her relationship with her sister-in-law, learning serious detachment with her. So thank you for the reassurance.
Yeah, I think I just want to touch on that a little bit too. That saying that family is everything and that blood is thicker than water, and that there is nothing more important when you're on your deathbed, blah, 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 than the time you spent with family. I am guaranteeing as a psychic medium, that is not the case. You have to make sure that your family system is a healthy one. I don't care if it's marital or genetic or whatever. It has to be a healthy system or none of that applies. And even within a healthy system, boundaries have to be set. Detachment still has to exist. And it can never overrule who you are or why you're here on Earth. Ever. It can't. It's just family. That's all. They're just people. Okay. We have more?
Then we have one from JF. Says, letting them flow on by is easier said than done. I seem to become very obsessive with them. I wish I could learn letting go.
Oh, you wish. Easier said than done. Until you choose to empower yourself, you'll stay there. It's not a wish. Growth doesn't come by wishing. No one's going to come and rescue you. It's on you to do. So you've been given the tools today. Hope you apply them. Good luck. Okay. So we have some prayer and healing requests coming in here. Do you want to read those off then? Before we say that, did we have anything else to say in closing? Okay. I think, Christina, you had something?
Just that, these are things that they're not easily done. You have to put in the work. You have to, when you're ready, when your life is going in a direction and it's not a healthy direction, unfortunately, most people wait until then to, kind of do the work.
Yep.
So it's better if you learn and do the work. But, like detaching from the feelings really has to do with more about not being in the feelings and observing the feelings. But you can't really know how to do that until you learn the meditation practices and you become conscious, because it becomes about being conscious versus being unconscious. So if you're walking around your day in your feelings, then you're unconscious. Like whenever I'm not remembering that it's my mind talking, or that I'm, that there's spirit inside me, then I'm unconscious for those moments. Mm-hmm. So I have to keep reminding myself and become conscious. So it's our responsibility, because ultimately it's our health, it's our mental health, it's our bodies. We have to be responsible for ourselves. So, like we said, you can use the tools. I mean, this is the only way. That's right. And I would say, don't be that person. Don't be that person who's always like, easier said than done. When you see an inspirational post, when you see an inspirational video like this, when you're being given the tools, don't be that guy who comes in and drags everybody else down saying, well, I can't. Encourage other people. Have some confidence. Get up. When do we start to say,
you know what? That's amazing. I'm going to apply that. I've made the decision right now. That's why I'm here. I'm glad I saw this. I'm going to apply it. Here I go. You know, like Christina said earlier, stop with all the negativity. Stop spreading the negativity. That's the first step. If you don't have something positive to say, don't say anything at all. If you're going to talk in self-defeatism, you already lost. Cut it off. That's a bad habit. It needs to end. Okay? This is a long, dirty journey, and it's hard, and you have to start sometime.
And it takes a lot of bravery to do that, you know?
Yeah.
Like Paul, you know, it took a lot of bravery for him to move, to become conscious. I mean, that's a huge steps in life, you know? That's not easy.
That's right. Kudos, Polly. Huge, huge. Especially at 40, you know, being like really, really settled.
I was only 39.
Whatever, you know. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Christina and Paul and Spirit. Have a great week, everyone.